In addition to being fun and exciting, studying abroad is also an excellent opportunity for students to learn about traditions and practices of other countries. Sometimes, studying abroad also offers a unique perspective on historic events. Students studying in Spain during the spring of 2004 learned this firsthand as they witnessed an historic election. After years of dictatorship under Francisco Franco, Spanish political power was returned to its citizens in 1978. Franco's successor, Juan Carlos, gave up his power as dictator and helped create the democracy that Spain enjoys today. This democracy, however, is somewhat different from what we have here in the United States. Spain is actually a kingdom, complete with a lineage-based royal family. When Juan Carlos gave up his dictatorship, he retained some of his power through the role of king. As king, Juan Carlos is the figurehead of the Spanish government. His main responsibility is to arbitrate and oversee the proper working of the institutions. He also promotes Spanish involvement with the rest of the world by visiting organizations such as the United Nations and the European Union. The democratic power of the Spanish government rests in its parliament, which is called Las Cortes Generales. This bicameral institution is composed of El Senado and El Congreso de los Diputados. Members of these legislatures hold 4-year terms in office and are elected by citizens over the age of 18. After a general election, the king meets with the party leaders and asks one of them, usually the leader of the largest party, to form a government. Once this new government is ratified by Congress, the party leader becomes the president of Spain. Both the United States and Spain have 3 branches of government. The legislative branch is responsible for creating laws. The United States has a bicameral legislature called Congress, and Spain has a bicameral legislature called the Cortes Generales. The executive branch is responsible for administrating the laws. Spain has a king, or chief of state, and a president, the head of government. The United States combines these roles into that of the president. The judicial branch is responsible for interpreting the law and upholding the ideals of the Constitution. In the United States, we have the Supreme Court, while Spain has El Tribunal Supremo. Every 4 years, Spain holds its general elections. Although parties unofficially campaign for months, election law limits the official campaign to only 15 days, so during this time the political parties are very active. During the 2004 elections, the 2 major parties were the PP, the Popular Party, and PSOE, the Socialist Party. The current president, Jose Aznar, had decided not to run for re-election, so Mariano Rajoy was the candidate for PP. Because PSOE had been defeated in the previous election, they also had a new candidate, Jose Luis Rodriguez Zapatero. The PP had held power for 8 years and had controlled an absolute majority in the Congreso de Diputados since the year 2000. PP started the campaign with a lead of only 5% over the opposition. Early campaigning addressed a range of topics such as economic and social policies, participation in the war in Iraq, and the level of autonomy given to regional governments. 3 days before the election was to take place, however, one horrifying event dramatically changed the focus of the elections. Commuter trains connect Madrid to local communities and offer economical transportation for students, blue-collar workers, and middle-class people who can't afford to live in the city. On the morning of March the 11th, these transportation systems were busy as the city experienced its usual rush hour traffic. But in a few brief moments, the lives of these commuters were turned upside down. At 7:39 a.m., 3 bombs exploded on a train just outside the Atocha station. Seconds later, 4 more bombs exploded on a train inside the station. At 7:41, 2 bombs exploded at the El Pozo station, and at 7:42, 1 more bomb exploded on a train at the Santa Eugenia station. In total, 10 bombs exploded on 4 different trains, killing 191 people and wounding more than 1,800. These attacks were the deadliest assault by a terrorist organization against European civilians since the Lockerbie bombing in 1988, and it was the worst terrorist assault ever in modern Spanish history.
In these hours of immense grief, we Spaniards are called more than ever to reaffirm our determination to put an end to terrorist violence. Let there be no doubt, terrorism will never achieve its aims. It will not manage to break our faith in democracy or our confidence in the future of Spain.
This morning in Madrid, terrorists exploded several bombs placed in local trains which were traveling full of citizens. At this time of such deep sadness, my first words are for the victims of these indescribable attacks. Already there are over 100 dead and many more are injured.
The Spanish people also responded with several protests against terrorism. It was initially believed that the attacks had been committed by ETA, an organization in the northern part of Spain that performs terrorist attacks to try to separate their region from the central Spanish control. The following night, the protests were much more dramatic, as 11 million people participated in a nationwide protest against terrorism. The Spanish National Parliament released an official decree condemning terrorism and promising safety under the Spanish flag. The official statement used throughout the country was "United with the victims, united with the Constitution, and united for the defeat of terrorism." The concept of unity was even carried over to the political arena, where both political parties announced that they had decided to suspend their campaigns and stand united in support of the Spanish democracy.
United with the victims, united with their families. For this reason, the Popular Party has decided to suspend its electoral campaign.
I go to the government and the political forces to say to them that this, now, more than ever, is the moment of democratic unity against terrorism. The terrorists must know that their crimes are as atrocious as they are useless.
In Madrid, political figures from different parties and members of the royal family all walked side by side for unity in the protest march. In the Atocha train station, people created an impromptu memorial with hundreds of candles and posters with supportive messages. For the next several weeks, Spanish flags with black ribbons could be found throughout the country, and the media began to show biographies and pictures of the victims and their families. But as the country mourned, the police were faced with the difficult challenge of finding the criminals. Although many initially blamed ETA for the attacks, officials now believe that Al-Qaeda is responsible. As of September the 12th, 2004, a total of 68 people had been arrested in connection with the bombing, and 20 suspects were being held. The suspected mastermind was awaiting extradition from Italy. One suspected coordinator was in custody, and another suspected coordinator was dead. Several weeks after the attack, 7 suspects blew themselves up in their suburban Madrid apartment as police surrounded the building. Even though the attack happened only a few days earlier, Spain proceeded with its elections, and there was a higher turnout than expected, 77%, up from 69% for the previous election. When the votes were counted, PSOE had reversed their shortage of 5% and actually defeated the incumbent PP by the same percentage. Early in the campaign, PSOE had promised to withdraw Spanish troops from Iraq. Opinion polls had found that 90% of the population never wanted to join the war. Upon being elected, PSOE fulfilled their promise by withdrawing Spain's 1,300 troops. Because of this, some feel that Spaniards let terrorism win. Others think that democracy won. Students who studied in Spain during this time have a unique perspective because they lived through this traumatic experience alongside the Spaniards.
We're here at a historic time in Spain. Even our senor was like, I can't believe you guys are here at this time. Because not only did we have the elections, which were huge because power changed, changed from the PP to the PSOE, but we also were here during the terrorist attacks. Being in Spain during the time, it gave me a little bit of a different perspective. Like, everybody in the whole world thinks that the Spanish people let terrorism affect them, and they changed their vote to a new party, and they're pulling the troops out of Iraq just because they're scared that they might get attacked again. But being in Spain, if you were here at any time at all, you would know that already before we even started, there was leaning towards the Socialist Party. They have a big following, so the fact that they won isn't really surprising. I don't really think they let terrorism affect them at all, because the leader of the Socialist Party, even before these things happened, months and months ago, said, my government, if I win, my government was not the one who sent these troops to Iraq, and my government's not the one that made this promise to, fight the war, so we're gonna let them have their duration in Iraq, but if I win, I'm going to pull them out. And this was months and months before the terrorist attacks even happened. So I don't know, if you had been here in Spain for any time at all, you would know that the terrorist attacks, yeah, they scared people, and yes, they were really upset about them. There were so many demonstrations and manifestations and, people out in the streets, but I really don't think that it affected the Spanish people in terms that they would, be so scared by it that they would change their vote or pull troops out of Iraq just because they were attacked.
I really felt like a Spaniard that day, and I think that goes for everyone else who is on the program. I felt more connected with Spain than I had before, and I felt more connected with Spain than any other place on earth at that time. I really don't think that it was so much the terrorism as Partido Popular's actions, because whenever everyone thought that it was ETA, that was this separatist group in Spain, everybody was very much for Partido Popular because they thought that they would be harder on them. But then when they found out the day before the election that Partido Popular had actually covered up the fact that it was Al-Qaeda, then they were very upset that their government had lied to them, and they acted accordingly.
Citizens in both Spain and the United States did not vote directly for presidential candidates. In the United States, we vote for members of an electoral college, who then vote for the president and the vice president. In Spain, citizens elect members of parliament. The king then meets with party leaders after the general election and asks the leader of the majority party in parliament to form the new government and to become president.
Científico Robert Gallo, Anthony Giddens, Edward Lowe,